Go ahead, put it on real tight. Hope you brought your best tonight. They say they got the fireworks, yeah, they say they got the show. You're around the shoots, you're the best, so let's go.
This is Texas Toast. I'm your host, Miss Helen. Kick back and enjoy as we toast the best from Texas.
Cheers, everyone. Welcome to Texas Toast. I'm Miss Helen. We have a wonderful guest with some wonderful upcoming music, but he's been around for a long time. Want to say hello and welcome. I'm so honored to have Matt Hillyer on the podcast. Hello, Matt. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Man, I'm
Yeah.
doing so good. Of course, everyone knows Matt from 1100 Springs. Y'all were together for so long, brought us so much good Texas music, so many shows. And it's like, when we got the music and I was looking at the name and I was like, because I was like in a rush and Kyle had sent me the email over and that name just kept resonating. And so we're going to talk a lot about this new album that you have coming out. And it was still not able to go down at memory lane with 1100 Springs. And of course, y'all actually officially retired the band about a year ago.
Yeah, we're coming up on a year. That's crazy to think that, a lot happens in a year, but yeah, we did. And it's funny because every now and again, I'll be out there working and somebody will go, "So what's retirement like for you?" I'm like, "Man, I'm working harder than I ever have been." No, but it cracks me up. But no, I mean, I'm staying busy all the time. Of course, I got the new record and everything like that. And just so you know, you can ask me anything you want to. I'm an open book. I love talking about 1100 Springs. I love about the new stuff, but whatever you want to talk about, it's great.
Yes. Well, and I like the fact that it's like, and I guess the music is just in your blood, in your soul. And it's like you stayed in the game, you didn't, and got out there. And so Glorietta is the album that comes out in February 24th. But it was so interesting to me that when I was reading the info sent over, you joined a songwriter group where you would receive a text message with like 3 words in it. Because I'm fascinated with songwriting. And I mean, I saw that and I just thought that was amazing. Can you tell a story about that? And how you wrote the songs being
Yeah.
prompted by those text messages.
Yeah. No, well, it's but like I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary of this deal, and it's not like there are other songwriter groups. I've even been in some. It's the same sort of thing. They're like you get a group of folks. Ours we try to limit to about 10. And you're given a prompt Thursday around noon with like 1 or 2 words or a phrase or something like that that's supposed to just, you don't have to stick to it, you just have to, it's got to just sort of inspire you to write something.
Oh my gosh.
And then you send to the email chain, you send like a basic demo and the lyrics but on before midnight on Wednesday, so tomorrow is crunch day for me. But in it for like over 2 years, and that's, like I would say 75% of the songs on my latest came from that group, and it was hard to whittle down just because, of course, we were all stuck at home, so there was time to do that, and it was one more activity that kept your mind focused on something creative when you can't go out and do what you normally do.
Right.
But it's been great. It's been really, really good, and I've seen a lot of good songwriters come in and out of that group, and a lot of good friends. And I'm always interested to see who's going to be the next person to join up. I currently am in charge now because Eric Middleton, my buddy, Eric just because he was the most old school dude in the group until about last week, really. And he was like, "Hey, dude, can you take over this?" I'm like, "Oh boy, okay, yeah, sure." But it's great. It's been a really, really awesome thing. Just you're always interested to see what people's different take is gonna, or where it will take you.
I know. That's just that whole thing just fascinates me. And I haven't heard that side of songwriting before. Scott and I talk about it a lot. We make a joke how that's always been my dream. And he's like, well, just come up with an idea. And I'm like, my ideas are all over the place. So yeah,
That's the best thing, though. It doesn't. It's it doesn't I have to remind myself. It's like there are people who are really pretty great at it, and it takes time, and and you have to learn it just like anything else. You couldn't go build a house in a day, but at its root, it's not much more complicated than a 4-year-old kid walking around the house singing something that they in their head. It's not that much more complicated, you know.
that is
It
so
basically
true.
involves you. It basically involves you staring at the wall and thinking of something. Of course, if you want to write something good, it takes a little bit more effort and sort of study, but it's just fun. That's my favorite thing about music. Period.
Hmm. How old were you when you first started writing songs?
The first song I ever wrote, I was 13, um, and I couldn't even tell you. I know what the title was, but I don't know the words, and I couldn't. If you asked me to sing any of it, I couldn't. It was called Pawn Shop Blues, and there's a reason I can't remember it. And even if I could, I probably wouldn't sing it. But no, it was all about being a 13-year-old kid who went to the pawn shop with no money, trying to find a cool guitar.
Oh,
Which was my existence at the time. Like I just would go there and just look at cool guitars, because back in those days, before the internet existed, you could actually find cool guitars in pawn shops. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, but I just loved it, and I was brought up around it. My mom at an early age, because I started playing gigs at an early age. But she pulled me to the side and said, "Look, you need to write your own songs. Because
mhm.
if you don't write your own songs, you have nothing to say. What's the point?" Um, so I kind of started pretty early with all that.
And you are a dynamic songwriter. Well, speaking of the early days, you spent a lot of time at Adair's.
Uh, I did. I did. But what's funny is that we had a band before 1100 Springs that tried to get a gig at Eight Airs, and they told us we only book established acts, which was so funny. Like in hindsight, because it was really before the whole Texas music thing started
Hmm. Right.
happening. I mean, it was going on, but it wasn't happening at Eight Airs. Like I don't know what established acts they were talking about. But it's funny. But we did wind up. That's where 1100 Springs got its start. Every Monday
Hmm.
night at Eight Airs. Yeah,
Monday night, a Monday
for
night.
like
That's
for
just
like
that.
2 years.
Yeah. How was that
Well,
on
because
Monday nights?
we weren't good at all when we started, and it wasn't 1100 Springs wasn't supposed to be anything. We did for the first month. We didn't even have a name for the band. Like we weren't even. It was just me and Steve
Hmm.
Berg and a guy Richie Vasquez, who was at the time playing with Jesse Dayton. It was just a three piece, and we just wanted some place to go and make extra beer money and play old country songs that we sort of knew.
Hmm.
And so we did, and we weren't good, and but we got better. Yeah, we knew the songs. We were all good musicians. As a band, we weren't good. We didn't rehearse. We didn't do anything. Like it was just let's get together and play some songs, and we would try to remember them on the spot. Uh, and about 2 or 3 weeks into it, we came up with a band name, and then we added a fiddle player, and then over time, it became just sort of a scene. And what really happened was that we had a lot of friends who worked in bars, and so it became sort of industry night. So all the bartenders and waitresses and stuff like that, Monday night was their Saturday night. So they'd all come out, and at first the people at Eight Airs were like, "What are these weird looking people doing here with these tattoos and stuff like that?" But it really turned into a scene. Word got around that you could drink cheap beer and you could listen to decent country music.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said, we got better, and we stuck with it for about 2 years, doing those Monday nights, and it really became kind of a crazy cool scene. Um, and I think fondly about those Mondays like that we did. I I'm really thankful that we did it because we learned a lot. You know.
Hmm. And that was an exciting time for Texas music because there was there was so much foundation that was being laid, and we see what we have today. And I think about those late 90s and early 2000s, and then things just taking off and the charts coming along and all the fun radio stuff and then all the fairs and festivals. But yeah, that's good memories and good times.
Really, yeah, and like it's cool that we were there when all of that happened, because like we were just a band playing shows on Monday nights at 8 airs, and then I remember the first time we played with Pat Green or
Hmm.
Jack Ingram, or the first show we did outside of 8 airs was a show we were playing with Leon Russell. I mean, I think word started to get around that we were pretty decent, and that like if there was a band that you wanted to support a show that played country music, it might have been us. Um, but anyways, like it was cool to your point, just to watch that whole sort of revolution happen, where all of the sudden, um, there's radio stations supporting the whole thing. There's
Reporting.
a
Hmm.
Yeah, right. And there's a fan
Yes.
base. They built a whole thing around it, and
Yes, we
and
did.
it's thanks to folks like you that have kept it going. And I like I don't know. I don't want to sound like the elder statesman in this situation, but like I do know exactly what I saw when the whole thing was starting, and how difficult it was for people in radio to stick to their guns and say, "This is it. This is what we're doing. That's right. This is what we're doing. Damn the torpedoes. We are going with Texas music." And
Yes.
that was not easy, because program directors and people in the sales department is sort of unproven. But the folks who love music, DJs like yourself,
Hmm.
uh, who could see what was happening, were like, "Look, you really need to get behind this, because you're going to miss the boat on this deal."
That's exactly right. And I had plenty of the meetings with, I would get so wound up because I'm so emotional, not only about the music, but as a Texan. And it was like, y'all, you got to see this. But when the sales department got involved, was because that it was our Texas artists like y'all and some of the, we can name all of them, that were playing all our county fairs.
Yeah.
And so we were the presenting station. And what are we presenting? We're not playing this. Are you kidding me? But, go back to the very, very, very beginning, where we would run to San Marcos, or we would go to show somewhere and be able to get the CDs. This was before we set I mean, I was in it before the radio tour started, and that we were going to the shows, we were finding the CDs or going to the music store, wherever we could get our hands on the music. But now we have a whole system in place, and this whole big thing going on. And so anyway, yeah, that could be like a totally separate podcast for me, but
I'm
that's
telling you,
why this podcast started.
it's so interesting to me, having been there, and I love talking to people who were there in that situation, and really understood it from the other side, because what a big deal it was to all of us musicians, and also because we could tell it was a big deal for you. When you knew, when you met somebody who cared about the music, who really just understood it, got it, and was behind you, and that's why you have these long-standing relationships with people
Hmm.
in radio, and why it's still so important to me, because I have so many friends that I've known for who were there in the beginning, some of the people that gave us our first radio spins. And I don't care how cool you are, it never stops being cool if you turn on the radio and you hear somebody playing your song. That's a choice, you know. For us it was anyways, and it still is. It's so I I thank you from the bottom of my heart,
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
And
and it's so exciting to see the things going on now, not only with the new artists that we have, but a lot of artists like you that have, been with other bands or done other things, been a musician for a Texas artist, and now, putting out their own music. So let's talk about your album. I just want to tell you that, I mean, your lyrics were so descriptive. Like, I totally just got lost in listening to every single track of this album. It was like those old days back when you would first get music in, and I just kept listening over and over. So I want to talk to you about producers, where it was produced, where you recorded, studio musicians that were
mhm.
in on it. Because, oh man, there's some rip and fiddle in that stuff.
Thank you. And that the fiddle is definitely Heather Stalling, one of my
Uh-huh.
long time friends. uh, and I've never used her on any studio tracks. And so when getting the opportunity, and this is no slight to my homeboy Jordan Hendricks, I just kind of mind that I wasn't going to use any 1100 Springs players on this record, just because I needed to step away from that, not just for myself, but for anybody who would think that I'm just gonna, it would be a no for me to make a record and just use the same guys. But
Right.
it was cool to use Heather because I've known Heather for a long time, and she's a friend, and she's so talented. But yeah, and then picking different players. The John Pedigo, who had a band called the O's, and he's got a thing called Pedigo's Magic Pilsner, and he's produced a lot of stuff for State Fair Records, and for other people. He produced a bunch of stuff for Joshua Ray Walker. But I've known John since he was, underage, trying to get into our shows, like and I've seen what he's been doing, and I just thought, man, we would have a lot of fun at the very least, collaborate well, and he's doing great work, and I think he did a great job on the record, and it was a lot of fun to work with, and we recorded it at Modern Electric in Dallas, and then well, a few different places, Modern Electric, and then Audio Dallas, and then in John's house, and then there was one other kind of a little small session studio that we did stuff at, but we
Mhm.
kind of bounced around a little bit. But some of my favorite players and some people that I hadn't ever worked with before. James Driscoll played bass, and boy, he really lays it down. And then Arjuna Contreras, who played with us for 1100 for about 6 years. He played drums, and Abel Casillas on the accordion, and uh, Crystal Yates. I just kind of just pulled from my Rolodex and just said, "Oh, who would be fun to get
Well,
in with?"
it's amazing. So let's talk about first the title cut, Glorietta, um, kind of the inspiration behind that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, my mom bought a place in Glorieta, New Mexico, which is about 30 minutes outside of Santa Fe, and I it's just be up there. She's got a great spot in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, and so really, I wrote the song on a trip that I took with my youngest daughter. It was with the first kind of outing that we had in this sort of early times of the pandemic, because she was going into sixth grade, and she was so excited about spring and all of this stuff, and she kept saying, "Yeah, we
Oh,
could do this for spring break, do this for spring break, and blah 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 blah," and everything hit right at spring break. It was like zero way to explain to her. None of that is happening. I wish that it were. I would take you anywhere you want to go right now, but we're not supposed to go anywhere. So
mhm.
the first chance that we got, about the time that my wife and I were about to kill each other, that's a joke, sort of, but anyway, my mom had this place out there, and we just sort of hightailed it to New Mexico, went hiking, and just sort of had some time, just me and her, um, looking at beautiful countryside and getting away, because we were just, yeah, like everybody in the world, fed up, and just, it's really, it was so difficult to watch the kids trying to navigate those sort of waters, and just being up there and breathing the fresh air and just being with her and doing stuff. It became sort of an anthem about getting out of the house, and then of course getting out of town. It's one thing to live in the city if you can just sort of move around, but when you're stuck in the house and you can't, and you're still living in the city, boy, we needed to get out. So that's kind of where the song came from.
Mhm. Okay, and then another one, Ordinary Man. I'm going to talk a little bit about that because that was based on the writing. It was about your dad.
Yeah, it is. It's not so loosely based on my dad, which my dad was not necessarily ordinary, but like he just sort of he found a place in life where his family was the most important thing. And so he didn't, like, he had a job that he worked for, I mean, decades, and I don't know that he really liked it all that much. And I always through my life thought about the drive that he would have to take from our house and North Dallas all the way to Mesquite every single day because the commute was terrible, just awful. And he did it from the 80s all the way up until 6 months before he passed away about 10 years ago. And I just always thought about that just because like he had to like on those long drives, you had to have so many frustrations or just thoughts or just whatever that were just
Right.
for him, for nobody else, and just how he felt about it. And it's really more like a Beatles song than it is
Yes.
anything than or that's a lofty claim, but it's Beatles or Harry Nilsson was kind of what inspired the sound of that song. And it's very special to me, and I'm glad you asked about that one because it's kind of out of left field. People who would expect what they hear from 1100 Springs probably wouldn't necessarily expect that one.
Well, and I'm
But
gonna tell you, like literally on this whole album, I mean, it goes, it's like there's so many different types of, I mean, like I don't even know how to explain it. I'm just blown away, but it's not every song is the same. And like for instance, then we go to Diablo Motel and the description and just the whole story and just pulled me in the room number 6 and all that. It was just
mm,
like, whoa,
that's
great
so
song.
cool that you bring up those two songs because I just always thought that those would be those two in particular the ones that are the most out left to center, if you will. They're just different. And the Diablo Motel is one of those ones from the songwriter group where it's just like what's freeing about writing a song every single week is for one after you do it for a while you sort of give up on this idea that they all have to be just slam dunks. Like you sort of say, okay, let's not worry about writing our next magnum opus. Let's go where it takes you, see where it takes you, and see what it does. Because next week will be a different one. You can get back in the wheelhouse next week if you're not feeling it this week. And um, I'm not saying that that's what this was, but it was definitely. I don't know. I can't remember what the prom was, but I want to say it was motel. And I just thought about, of course, you always think about the worst motels you've ever stayed in. Uh, and having been someone who's stayed in some of the worst,
I
like
bet.
I don't know, I thought about this idea where it's just like, well, what if you? And I'm talking about motels, not hotels. Difference.
Right, right.
Um,
Mo.
but we,
Yeah.
right, right. but if you found yourself in this spot and somehow if you wake it's like this guy, he wakes up from a trance and he finds himself in this motel. Things seem sort of okay, he's confused, but then it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse from there, more uncomfortable until he realizes he can't escape. There's no escape from this room and what it actually means, the metaphor for it. So it was fun to write something sort of different and spooky and sort of
Yeah.
Halloweeny and sort of you know
Yeah. And it's like I liked all of them. Like it was so funny because I started making notes and writing down. So I'm gonna go through these real quick, but there's one last one I want to get to. But I love Stolen Kisses, just especially the line about under the street light. Just passing through had such a good sound. But there's one I want to talk to you about. Of course, well, I do want to talk about two more if that's okay.
as many as you want.
It's all about the ride. That was one of my faves. It was so relatable on the other side and the roads and the twists and the turns.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote it with Mark David Manders, which I'm sure that you remember old Mark David Manders. Crazy, crazy man that he is. One of my best friends in the world, but he's something else. Um, but anyway, we got together to write as we sometimes do, and I always try to show up to a co-write with some sort of something, some idea. And I don't think Manders had anything in mind whatsoever. So I started digging through old notes and like bits and pieces of unwritten songs, and I started reading the first lines. I've seen winners, I've seen losers, seen from soccer moms to drug abusers, which was very true for the dichotomy of my music to family life situation. Uh, they say beggars can't be choosers when it comes to friends. And that line in particular, sitting there with Mark David Manders, is just like, that makes sense. It makes sense that like if that's the sentiment, then we definitely should write this song together because we're both out there field, you know, triplets that are all in college. He's clearly a successful dude, but he's one of the craziest people I've ever met. And I know people who would say the same thing about me, you know, basically that life takes you all different directions. And if you try not to overthink it or think about, you know, where the way things are supposed to be, because they rarely ever are the way they're supposed to be, you know, and you just think about it's just one big ride. It's all about the ride. Go where it takes you.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it wound up feeling perfect that we wrote it together, you know, because we're both just when the two of us get together, our if we go on a double date with our wives, it, that doesn't happen anymore, by the way, because the two of us get together and it gets weird, and then our wives and our wives are just like, oh God, why do we do this again? No, no more.
Oh, oh my goodness.
These guys
Yeah,
are
this
insane.
All right. So now the one that you saved it till the very end, or at least it was the last track that was on the what I got. Oh my God. That's how you know.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I was like I was I just that everything about that song cracked me up. Like it we just had one of those weekends, by the way, which that's how you know.
Right.
That should have been our theme song this past weekend, but I just love the part it's like, hey y'all, maybe we should play a drinking game. No, maybe not, but
Bit
let's do it. You know, it's
like
like, oh,
what bits and pieces from the best worst parties that you've ever had in your life, right? So like
yes,
uh,
yes.
I mean the one, and it's a weird song. The song structure is confusing to me when I listen to it. Like I tried to change it, but I couldn't take anything out because it's longer than it should be. But it's just a funny story, you know. I can't wait to make a video for it because the video in and of itself, if you just follow the lyrics, it'll be great, you know. The
I
one that
mean,
but the one that always got me was couple of girls thought it'd be clever to play a game called I Never. And it cracks me up because it's a specific situation that happened in my at least a couple times when you're at a party and like some gal goes, we should play I Never. It's like we should never play I
no,
Never.
never. Right.
Well, not when there's couples involved.
That's
Not because
exactly right.
they play dirty. They play dirty on their each other, and until in short order, somebody is mad at their husband or their wife for airing out their dirty laundry
Yes.
because they finally had a chance and they couldn't help themselves.
Oh yeah.
But and then there's a fight that happens, and it's just it goes to the point where it's just like there's one in every crowd. You can usually right away. And
Yeah, well, I just that song, it's like I had my headphones on and I'd been through and I had been listening off and on, and then I finally got to it and I was really concentrating, and then I was just making so much noise, and my guy was on the phone and he's just like looking at me and like he's kind of used to that with me, but it was like,
uh,
no, stop what you're doing right now. You have to hear this. It's just one of those
it's a
great music moments.
yeah. Thank you. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. It's I mean, like I don't know. I might have could have left that one off the record just because there's so many words, and it's
No.
the structure of it is so weird. But John Pettigo, the producer, is just like, dude, that song makes me laugh still.
Yes,
Still,
yes.
when I hear it, it still makes me laugh. I'm like, all right, fair enough. So I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
I had fun. I had fun writing it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about you getting out and about. I know you're going to be heading up to Steamboat and doing some stuff there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. My liver hurts anytime anybody says Steamboat.
Yeah.
Have you gone? Have you gone? When are you
It
going?
is on my bucket list. It's always been because when I was in radio, we always had so much stuff going on. I couldn't break away. Plus, I was raising, the kids were young and coming up. I do have the time now. Last year was tennis. I still have maybe an opening, possibly to go up this year, but man, I've got to do that. But the thing is, like you said, it's like, whoa, that liver thing. There's a few places I go. I think the same thing, but I
It's a
really, really got to go.
no. You do. Everybody's got. If you love red dirt music, then you have to
Mm-hmm.
do it at least once, because everybody, all of our friends are up there, which is a dangerous proposition, but at the same time it's like it's the one of the best times ever. Now let me give you some advice as a radio person. You should reach out the to the people involved, Dixon Productions,
Right.
somewhere somewhere earlier in the year, after it's done, and see what your radio card will get you, because we want you up there. You know what I
I
mean?
want to be there, and
We,
all my friends will be there, including musician friends and radio friends and friends from here. And that's just like when we go to the Texas Country Music Awards or the T3R Awards. That's like
yeah.
a family reunion. I mean, it's like we have so much fun and don't know when to stop, don't know when to call it, because it's like you just soak in that time that you all get to spend together. And
Now
somebody may
now times five. You know what I mean?
I
'Cause
know, exactly. Yes. That's the
it's
scary part for me. Yeah.
oh, it's beautiful. It's
No, I
beautiful.
know it's great.
It would be awesome to have you up there. Yeah, you got to do it. You got to figure that one out.
Yes. Okay,
So
you got me encouraged again. Kyle's
but
been working on it.
yeah, write a note. Write a note. Yeah, Kyle's got the inside track. Kyle
Hmm.
knows. He
Well,
knows what's up.
I have a whole group from here that goes every year, and a few weeks ago we had a discussion. It's like we still got some spots, and so maybe we'll see. But also, all right, you're gonna also have a West Coast tour with Del Watson. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's right. Yeah, no. But immediately, I leave Steamboat to meet up with them in Los Angeles, and then I'll be out with them up and down the West Coast for a couple of weeks, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun, because 1100 used to do a lot of traveling on in California and up and down
Hmm.
the West Coast and
Hmm.
stuff. So it'll be good to get back and see some of the old friends, and of course, who doesn't want to. That's your job. You play 45 minutes, and then the rest of the evening is just you sit there and watch Dale Watson do his
I
thing.
know.
It's
How
gonna be awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
then
Well,
and
oh,
then
go ahead.
after that, like, so I'll wrap up that run, and then I'm gonna kick around in New Mexico at my mom's place, and then meet up with my good friends, the Red River Songwriters, for their festival in Red River, New Mexico. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
so
Well, you-
a lot of stuff going
Yeah, a
on.
lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So excited about the album coming out. And of course, it comes out February 24th. Are you going to do like any like pre-promotion with it? Maybe drop a few before the actual drop date of the album, or
Well,
just
we dropped a couple, and then we're trying to figure out, because you know how it is with the music business, or just anything in general, like December and January are just kind of like
Oh,
a ghost
yes. Oh,
town.
yes.
So it's like whether to I think we're gonna come out of the gate swinging in February, but the next single will probably be later January, so good people like you can get ahead of the game with
Yes.
the whole deal.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. We'll look forward to that. Okay, so I have one last question before I let you go.
sure.
If you were a cocktail, what would you be?
Oh goodness, old fashioned.
Oh man, that's like the most popular one. And I have a confession to make, because usually I'm like the pirate girl. I have my
Everybody
rum and
says old fashioned.
yes, I have my rum and diet. Listen to this. I have my rum and diet Coke most of the time. That's what I drink. I like lighter drinks. So when I went to Fort Worth, met some friends upstairs at the hotel at the bar, and I was like, man, it was just all it was cold outside, and they had these nice little charcuterie boards, whatever you call them. And I was like, okay, well, I'm off the coast. I'm gonna get an old fashioned. Whoa.
It's very sweet. It's very sweet, and it's
Very,
not
mine
necessarily.
was strong. It was so
Well, yeah.
strong.
Well, it's just bourbon in a glass with a
I
couple of
know.
little
That
sweeteners,
swishy or whatever they do. That's yeah.
well, there's 1,000 different ways to make them, right? But I just thought old fashioned. I do like old fashions,
Yeah.
but it's not my go-to.
No.
Like to drink. Honestly, I think just Jameson neat, really.
Hmm.
Maybe
Hmm.
that's the way. I just thought old fashioned because I feel like I'm a relatively old fashioned type of guy. But
Oh
like,
my gosh.
and I do drink old fashions. It's just maybe If everybody else is saying it, then let's just go Jameson neat. You know?
Okay, there you go. There you go. Oh my goodness, Matt. It's been so much fun visiting with you and just such an honor and privilege to have you
We
on the
can't
podcast.
do this for a couple more hours.
I know. I wish we
distract-
could. I know. We got to
Uh,
do this again. We have to do this again and discuss some other stuff. Yeah, because you got the album coming out. So we'll have to catch up like in February again, like into February or something. Yeah.
Only if we promise not to be strictly business.
True that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, cause we got all the bullet points on this one. We hit every single window and we talked all about the business.
Yeah.
The business.
So the next time we just bullshit, right?
Yes, let's make it weird.
Okay. All right. Matt,
okay.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And with a heavy tongue, she knew where I was from. As she left, I dared to say, well, you can go to